G'day. F1's first ever season launch was, in my eyes, a real winner. I know many of you were ready to can it, and yeah, there were a couple of corny bits in there and a few things that fell flat, but in general, I thought it was a ripper. I'll get to that soon, but the night kicked off with a red carpet entry at the O2 Arena. All the drivers, but have a look at this. More than half of the people who view my videos on YouTube aren't subscribed. If you're one of those, please, a favour. Could you please hit the subscribe button at some point? And thank you to those 404,000 who have. Back to the red carpet, we had a few stars, yes. We had some singers, chefs, past drivers, team principals, one with his wife, one looking like a villain. Most of the drivers, though, were dressed up to the nines. Liam Lawson being the notable down dresser. Looked like he'd be very much at home on the farm in New Zealand. The Ferrari boys shone. Lewis Hamilton arrived in a Ferrari Purosangue and looked magnificent here. A nice smile from Lewis, which is always a bonus. Charles sparkled in this dark suit with a lovely Ferrari pin, and Naomi Schiff was a standout. Then it was into a packed O2 Arena. We had all of the F1 hierarchy on the tables on the bottom section around the main stage. Things I noticed on the telecast. We had Oscar Piastri sitting at the McLaren table with his girlfriend Lily on one side. I spotted Lewis Hamilton's security guard standing not too far behind him. F1 sponsor Moet and Chandon had their beverages on the tables, although I didn't see any of the drivers having a drink. Netflix crews were in attendance, so that would suggest to me that their contract will be extended with Formula One. Of course, March 7 sees last year's series going to air. And I'll get to this early, but there was some booing tonight. Two instances. One was when the FIA logo appeared on screen and was then mentioned at one point.
The FIA has been instrumental in their efforts over the last 75 years.
And clearly, a number of people in the audience not in favour of the FIA. And the second time was when Christian Horner came on stage. In fact, I think he was booed 3 times. It wasn't as loud as the FIA boos, but it was noticeable on the telecast. What did you think of the host, Jack Whitehall? I thought he did okay. I don't know the man, but I'll be interested in your comments below. He did fawn over Charles Leclerc a couple of times and even got Fernando Alonso to smile. Then came the important part, the livery reveals of all of the 10 teams, and it was done in reverse order. So we started with Sauber and we ended up with McLaren, and one by one they were revealing their liveries. I'll go into a few of those livery reveals in a moment, but I did like the piece they did on the F1 movie. Ran a good few minutes, and there's a real push to get people excited about that movie that comes out in late June. And there was some filming of vision of F1 drivers, not the fictitious F1 drivers, the real drivers. So I think that we'll see a fair bit of them in that movie. Now, I was wondering whether or not Jonathan Wheatley might make an appearance for Sauber, but no, he's still on gardening leave. So Mattia Binotto took over those honours. We had drivers with their helmets leading their car out. And straight up, you could see that a lot of money was spent on this launch with all the digital screens, with all the lighting, multiple cameras, and a pretty impressive overall sight. I like the fact that James Vowles came out and pretty much took over the Williams segment, because every team had 7 minutes to showcase their livery however they wanted. Some did it a lot better than others. James was pretty good, had his drivers out there. I did like the fact that the drivers' names are circled in yellow on the car. That's a new thing this year. Next up was VCARB, and I thought they did a good job of drumming in their name, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, because there was always some confusion as to what the hell we should call them. So they took this opportunity to put that to rest, did their car reveal, and I thought the livery looked fantastic. I had been expecting a little bit of green on the car because on their race suits you can see that there are some green highlights. But the car itself, I give that a thumbs up in terms of its look. I've always found it a great car to photograph on track, so I'm delighted to see it looking this swish this year. What I noticed about the Haas segment was that they are very focused on the US market. It was all aimed at them. We had Kane Brown, a country singer, fronting the video opener, and all the imagery behind the cars was US based. Did their car look any different? No, it looked pretty much the same. But I did like the fact that teenager Ollie Behrman, when he came out, was, I don't know whether it was overawed or he was just lapping up the moment. It was lovely to see some genuine excitement and a big grin on the British driver's face. And then it was time for Brian Tyler, who is the man behind the F1 theme, to come out and do his piece. I used to be a DJ in my past life, but I'm not sure he was doing anything with these knobs that he was twiddling on that deck. I thought that fell a little bit short And certainly Flavio Briatore looked a little bit confused by it when they cut to him. But on the plus side, the lighting was magnificent. I think that bit went way too long as well. And then it was time for the Alpine boys to come out in their new, more pink race suits than they were last year. I'm not sure about these savage haircuts on Jack and Pierre. I guess it will grow on us, but I thought the Alpine bit could have been lifted a little more. And a person very close to the Alpine team sent me a message shortly after that segment saying, "We cried, 6 minutes of DJ, 1 minute of car." Oh dear. And some teams you could see spent a lot of money on their launches, and I'll get to one in particular next, in fact. But I did notice a new sponsor on board the Alpine car, that's MSC. The cruise people, big sponsor of Formula One itself, and now a team sponsor. That's not unusual. The likes of Aramco sponsor the sport and Aston Martin, and perhaps we'll see more of the sport sponsors going into individual team sponsorships at some point. I'm going to say that the highlight of all of the team reveals, in my mind, was Aston Martin's. They absolutely killed it with the James Bond connection. Of course, Aston Martins have been used in Bond movies for eons, but I think there would have been plenty of negotiation and perhaps some money involved in getting the use of the James Bond theme for their livery reveal. There was also a nice touch with both of the drivers dressed in suits with their helmets on, appearing among the fans up in the grandstand. And I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong if you were at the event, that was probably filmed earlier on in the night, because not long after that they were down on the stage. I find myself thinking, what would these rookie drivers think of tonight's affair? I think they would have been overawed by it. They haven't been really in this situation yet. They've obviously, a couple of them had drives last year, but certainly to walk straight into this 15,000, 16,000 strong crowd, be that centre of attention for some minutes, and obviously soaking up the atmosphere, I think these kids would have felt pretty darn excited, and perhaps even the more experienced drivers got a kick out of it as well. Another thing you wouldn't have realised is that once a segment had gone to air in the live broadcast, immediately I and all of the media received an email with all of the assets for each team. Everything was perfectly timed so that no one got the information before the reveal, and they had to, because F1 had stipulated that you could not release your livery prior to it being seen on this broadcast. And that was a great way to get maximum number of viewers to watch this particular show. Mercedes-Benz launch I thought was classy, understated, nothing as spectacular as the Aston Martin one. And then we went on to Red Bull. Now that's where Christian Horner was booed as he took to the stage 3 times. He was sitting down earlier on his table. I noticed that Oliver Mintzlaff, who was the head honcho at Red Bull soft drink company, was with him. Liam Lawson got some big cheers when he was introduced. The Red Bull video was certainly big budget. It looked okay. I don't think it grabbed me. In fact, no, it didn't grab me. I'd be interested in your thoughts. Did it grab you? Because Red Bull is a company known for amazing marketing, for amazing stunts. And I thought that perhaps this one missed the mark a little bit. And I'm not sure how Max felt about all the hoopla, all the people behind him as he walked out with the car. He's a pretty down-to-earth fella, Max. He doesn't get caught up in too much of this razzle-dazzle. And as he said, going back a couple of weeks ago, maybe he might have been sick tonight and had to miss it. But no, he turned up, did the right thing. And of their car, their new livery, I couldn't see any difference. I'm sure there are some minor differences, but year after year, they pretty much trot out the same livery as the year prior. I guess if you're on a winner, why would you change it? And then there were the final 2 teams with Ferrari, huge roar for both of their drivers, and I did like the splash of white on the car. And am I right in thinking too that the red this year is a slightly darker red than last year? Perhaps it's a little bit tough to tell underneath those lights. I'll be excited to see how it photographs when we get to Bahrain for pre-season testing. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali took to the stage to thank everybody for coming. Behind him was the trophy, the Constructors Trophy, in a Louis Vuitton case. And of course that will be part of Louis Vuitton's branding this year, with every race having the trophy on stage in one of their branded cases. And yes, he was wearing a sponsor's watch, a Tag Heuer Monaco. And I can tell you that Stefano is a mad Rolex lover. I've seen a number of his Rolexes, so he's done the right thing for the sponsor by wearing that. Oh, and Bernie Ecclestone got a big thank you for his work in getting the competition to where it was before Liberty Media took over. And then it was McLaren's turn to take to the stage and reveal a car that looks pretty much like 2024's car. I thought both drivers spoke eloquently. In particular, Oscar Piastri, he is developing and maturing in leaps and bounds, and certainly McLaren will be favourites to take out the Constructors' Championship in 2025. And then we finish things off with a hero shot, all 10 cars, all 20 drivers on the stage for the world's media to gobble up. But I must say I was surprised that the FIA swearing ban was raised by Jack Whitehall with Gordon Ramsay. It was a clever rehearsed skit, but good that that sort of thing wasn't off the table, because that is quite a controversial matter. A fine has already been handed out to a rally driver. Now, a first offence carries a €10,000 fine. Anyway, that aside, the event tonight, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. But what I want to see is your rating out of 10 for it. Did it keep you going the whole race? Did you nip out a couple of times to grab a snack or make a cup of tea? Of course, I was watching it with a completely different viewpoint. I was looking for people in the background and things I thought you might not have spotted. Now, before you go, could you please hit the like button? And for those of you who are subscribed, thank you. Those who are not, once again, a plea to hit that button. And if you want to look at all my other social media content, you'll find some links here, and of course, merchandise and a whole lot of other stuff and information at kimellman.com. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Oh, fuck.